Hello, everyone. Can everyone hear me clearly? We will start in 1 minute. So uh, you can just drink some water and move to a city you want to see. Okay, hello everyone, and welcome. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Jing Tang, and I'm the founder at Nuan Sunshine, a survivor-led peer support community in Taiwan. And I will be your host for this discussion. The theme of our session is reimagining recovery through survivors' collective narratives. In Chinese-speaking communities, the path to healing from sexual violence is often shaped by deep-rooted cultural expectations. Many survivors struggle with shame and silence, while recovery is often viewed as an individual journey rather than a collective one. Today, we will explore how survivors can reshape their recovery through shared narratives and artistic action. Our speakers will share experience from Taiwan and Hong Kong, looking at how survivor-led initiatives like immersive theater and community advocacy create spaces and social change. Wait, okay. Um, Before we begin, a quick note on how we will handle questions. If you have a question during the session, feel free to type it in the chat box at any time. We will collect them and address them at the end. For the last minutes, we will have a live Q&A. And during the time, you're welcome to use the raise hand function on the bottom of the window if you would like to speak directly. And before we move into the Q&A, we will take a group photo. If you are comfortable, we invite you to turn on your camera for a quick screenshot. And of course, participation is completely optional. Hello. Mm, eh, excuse me. Mm. Oh, okay. Sorry. Uh, Before we move into the Q&A, we will take a group photo. If you are comfortable, we invite you to turn on your camera for a quick screenshot. Of course, participation is completely optional, and you can choose to remain off camera if you prefer. Okay, with that, let's get started. And our first speaker is Ziwen, who will share insights from Nuan in Taiwan. And Ziwen, the floor is yours.
Okay, hi. Can you hear me clearly? Okay, let me share my slides. Wait a minute. Okay, so hi, I'm Ziwen, and I'm one of the executive director at Nuan Sunshine, and also in charge of this creative advocacy project, Journey of Recovery. And in the next 25 minutes, you will get a brief picture of how we survivors work together to co-create this initiative. and the potential impacts we try to achieve through this creative process. Before we start, I'd like to invite you to watch a 2-minute video, and it's the promotional trailer for Journey of Recovery. So, OK。
你很了解你内心的一切吗？
你敢接受伤吗？
就算我很想往前，
我不
也不知道
太喜欢
往哪里。
跟别人讲我的
可以帮我一
创伤
个忙吗
故事。
想请你陪我练习接受爱。
暖暖是一个性暴力幸存者相伴的团体，也是全台唯一一个由幸存者自主建立的支持团体。我们透过线上、线下、匿名或者是公开姓名的方式，让幸存者选择一个他舒服自在的互动模式，重新参与到人际互动的关系当中，建立自己的自信。
最近即将举办的松烟的沉浸式体验展，去让大家了解说，其实性暴力并不是一个很可怕的事情，或者说它没有离我们这么远。日常生活中充满了这样子暴力的形式，只是我们可能都没有发觉。那我们也鼓励大家发觉了以后，可以温柔对待自己跟别人的伤。
我们也许把它比喻像是一个隧道，因为它是一个半封闭的环境。那终点的那一边就是你想要去的地方。希望你透过这样的一个体验，也许带入他们的视角，去理解他们的心情。
透过跟幸存者伙伴的一起创作，去对整个社会邀请他们认识到，我们不是特别又脆弱的一群人，然后让我们可以真的可以很自在的在这个地方生活。
我们希望这一次是由幸存者自己拿起麦克风，不是被任何人拯救，让大家看到幸存者可以有脆弱的那一面，也可以有很强韧的生命力。
你有体验过被安全聆听的感受吗？这是一个地方可以让你安心的诉说。它不是一个很华丽的体验，但是是一场真诚的旅程。
我想邀请大家允许自己有各式各样的状态，就算那个状态不好也没关系，但是也允许自己去看到未来是有可能有希望的。
我喜欢你，在你讨厌自己的时候。
Joyful, like amazing.
Sorry, I have to share my slides again. Sorry. Okay. So this is the trailer of Journey of Recovery, and Journey of Recovery was a public open exhibition for everyone, and it was set in a 1,000 square meter warehouse, running for 3 days with 10 sessions in total, each lasting an hour. And as you saw in the video, the audience first met their wayfinders. We call 引路人 in Chinese. Wayfinders were played by our volunteers. The wayfinders explained the participation rules and helped them put on their earphones and an eye mask. When the recording started playing, a warm voice invited the audience to step into a survivor's inner world with her. Then the wayfinders guided them slowly into the experience area. So, the first feeling the audience encountered might have been fear in the darkness and the unfamiliar textures beneath their feet. And after walking for about 7 minutes, the audience was invited to take off their eye masks. Now they could follow their instincts, roaming sitting or even lying down on the ground while listening to the survivors' narratives. They could also explore the exhibited objects, which were contributed by survivors in our survivor community, Nuan community, such as dolls that once accompanied them, or gifts from Honduras, and more. And finally, I think this is also an important part of the participation process. We invite the audience to sit together with their wayfinders again to discuss and share their feelings and thoughts about one central question: what is recovery? So that was Journey of Recovery, a collaborative effort involving not only survivors from our Nuan community, but also dozens of people outside the community, such as artists and volunteers who care about this issue. For today's talk, I'd like to share my experience working with other survivors to co-create this initiative. And because every survivors have their own concerns about how much they're willing to reveal, we try to offer different options for participation to meet survivors' diverse needs. And also, I kept in mind that we as survivors, we need a space where our consent can remain flexible over time. So I regularly check in with survivors about their thoughts and feelings throughout different stages of the creative process. And there were 4 ways for survivor to participate in Journey of Recovery. Oh, here. Contributing to collective narratives and performing voice narratives, sharing meaningful objects for exhibition, and volunteering as a wayfinder. So some survivors join collective narratives, shaping stories together through conversation and shared reflection. And some lend their voices, performing voice narratives, and others chose to share meaningful objects, letting personal items carry their stories into space. And some stepped in as wayfinders, guiding others through the experience. But for today's topic, I'll focus on the first one, contributing collective narratives. And I want to dive deeper into how we engage survivors in these collective narratives and why this was such a meaningful part of the progress. Okay, so including myself, we have 5 survivors participating in this co-creation process. We share, discussed, and recorded our conversation through online meetings and in-person workshops. Instead of conducting formal interviews, it felt more like a group of friends gathering in a stable and safe space, chatting, sharing, and reflecting together. So telling and sharing became essential methods in the development of our screen materials. For example, in this creative process, the first active I designed was inviting all co-creators to take turns describing a scene related to their experience of trauma or recovery. The scene could be realistic or imaginary, or even a symbolic inner landscape. For example, one co-creator shared a mental image of herself floating on the sea and gazing at the stars. And sometimes a single scene sparks something in others. Like one co-creator talked about, she walked along a narrow path between the mountains and the sea. And as I listened, I felt something resonate and shared that after being heard, I often carry a sense that not really belonging anywhere. This sharing made her pause, and then she said, maybe this scene represents how we're all walking our own unique path. And that's why this process was so powerful. Our stories weren't just being told, they were growing, expanding, connecting. And in the later stages of our creative process, we came up with questions we wanted to ask other survivors and interviewed each other. Eventually, we carefully co-created an interview guide centered around recovery. A group of sentences centered around recovery and taking turns answering each question while we also add insights and help document our thoughts. So these led us to some deeply thought-provoking questions. For example, what did trauma take away from you? Or has your pain ever been fully acknowledged? What was that moment like? And if we are so aware of our symptoms, does that make us patient? And do you believe every trauma must be healed for a story to have a good ending? Or have you ever wanted to prove to someone that you were getting better? We asked those questions with each other. We had an intense discussion around these questions so much so that we jokingly call it like a soul torture ourselves. Because these are the kinds of questions that are hard to share with people who haven't experienced sexual trauma. And even if we did, even if we try to share our answers with other people, the answers will likely be difficult for them to truly understand. So for me, this was both hardest and the most rewarding part of the process. The hard part was that every answer came from pain, deep self-awareness, and countless internal conversations before we could even put it into words. And the answers felt temporary, always involving, but the rewards were profound. I felt that it is powerful to be able to take a question that had been sitting in my mind for years and discuss it openly with other survivors. Even when our answers were different, there was a deep sense of being seen, being understood. And that kind of openness and shared understanding is itself a form of healing happening among survivors through equal relationship and genuine dialogue. Eventually, we gathered 6 hours of recorded sharing and discussion, and based on those materials, these authentic words were woven together and added into our audio scripts. Okay, then you may wonder, what does recovery mean for survivors? What did we learn about recovery from this co-creation process? Let's go back to the question we raised about recovery. You might notice that they all carry an underlying assumption, a silent doubt. Are survivors of sexual trauma seen as patients? Is getting better the only acceptable good ending? And these assumptions are deeply embedded in the struggles of survivors in Taiwan. We find ourselves stuck with the label of patient, and we wondered, can I believe that one day I will truly get better? And if I never do, how am I supposed to keep going? So, what does recovery mean for survivors? For this question, I want to share a beautiful moment. This photo on your right side was taken during our recording session with the co-creators, the five of us, along with our collaborating sound designer and performance coach. We were squeezed into a small office at our association, and it was a hot day. But to ensure good recording quality, we had to turn off the air conditioning so its noise wouldn't get picked up. And for the first 2 hours, everyone was immersed in a happy yet courageous atmosphere and speaking our truths, our feelings, memories, and uncertainties. But in the final hour, for some reason, the mood began to shift. The weight began to lift and a playful energy emerged. At one point, we were recording a line that required 3 people to say it together. When the sound designer gave the cue, the 3 of them in the picture, they shouted the line straight from their heart in perfect sync. The whole room burst into cheers and laughter. They shouted the line, which is, "I want to do the thing that make my heart beat." So I think maybe for some survivors, recovery is a longing, it's a desire, not only for pain to acknowledge, but also for society to return to us the right to pursue an ordinary life, to be ourselves, to feel our own existence. Okay, the final part, transformative impacts. I want to share this part with 2 beautiful moments, both from survivor audience who experienced our journey of recovery. On the last day of journey of recovery, after all the sessions had ended, I was completely exhausted and waiting for the audience to leave so I could finish my work. And just then, a woman walked up to me and asked, "Can I hug you?" I nodded and she embraced me. As she held me, her voice trembled and she said, "Thank you for creating Journey of Recovery." She told me that the clothes she was wearing that day were the same clothes she had worn when she was sexually assaulted. But by wearing those clothes to Journey of Recovery, the clothes' meaning had changed. And second beautiful moment happened later during the experience when we invited the audience to sit down. Oh, sorry, this picture is for the first one. It's for the first story I just shared. And this is for the second one, sorry. So the second one, when we invited the audience to sit down and draw their feelings, those who were willing could also share their drawings and thoughts with other audience. And then a man stood up. He said that he rarely talked about his experience of sexual trauma. Sorry. But that day, sorry. Yeah. Well, on that day, he was deeply moved and felt the urge to share. He said that in the experience, when he received a small stone from the wayfinder in Luren, he felt something unexpected. He felt love. And he told us that the warmth of the stone seemed to carry something passing through his hands. Later, he shared with me how happy he was to see that survivors were not only seen through the lens of anger or pain, Survivors too, we can hold love, we can give love. As my colleague once said, as survivors, we did what we wanted to do, and that itself is meaningful. We survivors can speak for ourselves rather than having professionals speak on our behalf. We can exist in many forms, not just as figures of anger or pity, not just as victims. And even after experiencing sexual trauma, we still carry the longing, the desire for an ordinary life. We are real people living our desire on our own terms. And finally, I want to share my hope. To me, survivors don't have to be isolated fighters struggling alone. We can come together using creativity and beauty to share our lives. And alongside this world that once hurt us, we can create transformation. So this is my part. Thank you for your listening. Okay.
Yay, thanks for Ziwen. I noticed that some of our audience raised their hand, but for the time arrangement, we have the 10 minutes Q&A at the end. So if you have a question now, please type in the chat box. We will collect them and answer them at the end. Thank you. And the next part, I want to invite Wan Rong, who is assistant professor from National Taiwan University. Let's let's invite Wan Rong.
All right. Can everyone hear me? How's my voice sound? Okay. All right. So I guess this is a good morning from Taiwan, and for all our international participants from all different time zones, it might be a good evening, good afternoon, or good night. So thank you so much for joining us for this amazing topic and the conversation. So a little bit about myself. My name is Wan Rong. I also go by Wendy, if that's easier for people to pronounce. So I'm an assistant professor at National Taiwan University, and also have been a mental health clinician for many years. So thank you again for Nuan for hosting this wonderful panel and discussion. And it's such a pleasure to be part of it, and also happy to, co-presenting with our international partner, Charlene from Hong Kong. So today's topic is Reimagine Recovery through Survivors' Collective Narratives. So I'll be sharing one of my recent research around the narratives from sexual violence survivors in Taiwan about their growth outcomes out of sexual violence trauma. So that's in addition to all the pathological symptoms and outcomes that we are all familiar with, with the PTSD, depression, anxiety, all these pathological diagnoses we knew. We want to present another aspects of the recovery journey, and hoping that to install a sense of hope to all the survivors who are still in the process. Also an installation of hope for many providers who are, doing this wonderful, amazing work with the communities. So just a little bit background. I see old faces and new faces in the participation list. So for those of you who are not familiar with the Me Too movement, so actually Taiwan didn't get the Me Too movement momentum until the 2023, which is spurred by a popular new Netflix TV show, Wavemakers, like Ziwen already talked about. So unlike, the wave spread in the, United States, Europe back in 2017, we actually started Me Too movement later in the time. So just a little bit background of the problem. So sexual violence is a severe public health as well as societal issues in Taiwan as well. It's similar to the statistics in the States, like 1 in 24 individuals in Taiwan reported experience, completed or attempted sexual violence in their lifetime. And it is important to note that 67% of the cases actually go underreported. And it actually has very long-term and very humongous impacts, not only societal impacts, but also economical impact in Taiwan. For example, we have amounting to $160 million expenses in Taiwan annually to spend on these sexual violence-related issues and the trauma recoveries. And despite the 2020 and the 2023, these two waves of Me Too movement in Taiwan, a national survey indicated that only 30% of the survivors sought formal assistance. So as you can tell, the number is really, really low. So even though after the 2023 Me Too movement, we almost like double the reporting rate in Taiwan annually, but still, as you can tell, a lot of numbers are hidden still in the process. And in addition, although in my following research, my focus is mainly around female survivors in Taiwan, but it is important to note that sexual violence happened to all genders or all different sexual orientation for everybody in the communities. But with the ratio in Taiwan, the man versus woman is around 20 versus 80. So that's the reason why my research mainly focus on the female participants, but that doesn't mean men survivors doesn't count. So I just want to emphasize that as a disclaimer. So like I mentioned, with the Me Too movement, actually, gains its momentum in 2023 in Taiwan. So there have been a lot of discussions about healing and recovery. And we're slowly moving into this like collective healing conversation in Taiwan, not only with the Me Too movement, but with all the trauma-informed concept and conversation transition into the social services in Taiwan back in 2019. So there being a lot of like conversation about what is recovery, what does healing look like among survivors post Me Too movement. So Taiwan has slowly moving into the stage of, the era of collective healings. So a little bit background and about the main construct we were talking about in my research, which is post-traumatic growth. There's, just like I said, even now in research community, in academia, we haven't reached the consensus. What is resilience? What is recovery? What is post-traumatic growth? So this is, so just like I mentioned, no consensus has reached, but this is the theoretic framework I draw, which is from this picture about how to differentiate what is PTSD, the resilience, and PTG. So as you can tell from the pictures right here, when adverse events, for example, like trauma, like sexual assault, all these traumatic events happened, you can tell these individuals' function drop deeply right here. So for the PTSD trajectory of the recovery, as you can tell, this person, this individual, might stay in an impairment status, might be diagnosed with PTSD or other relevant mental health diagnosis over time, stay in this traumatic status. And in terms of resilience, there are many different ways to look at it, but the way I explained it in the study is that recovery or resilience means this individual, even though they suffer from sexual violence or different like traumatic event, they have the management to bounce back to where they were before. They went back to where they were. They maintain their function just like the past. is the resilience. And for the PTG I'm referring to in the study, you can tell from the line right here. So these individuals, not only they bounce back, but they actually become better. They are in a even better recovery and overall functioning leveling after the adverse event. As you can tell, this like light gray line, they actually went higher than compared to their basic function in the past. So this is the growth I'm talking about, referring to in the study I'm performing. But the thing is that I want to emphasize that I believe that post-traumatic growth is not just an outcome. As you can tell from like trajectory, it's a long-term process. It's not just mental adaptation to believe yourself you are actually better to get through the worst. It's a long-term, stable process or outcome for people to, recognize and to see what's the transformation, what's the positive transformation they experience and they recognize through the process journey. So for those international participants, you can also tell from these Mandarin characters in Taiwan. So in Mandarin character, we call Weiji crisis. It's actually interestingly consistent with two words. Wei means danger and Ji means opportunities. So opportunities comes after dangers. So it's actually, similarly reflect to the concept of PTG I'm talking about in this presentation is that we can see or expect good things happen after the bad things. It might not necessarily happen at the time, but eventually it might come around. And it's important to acknowledge that opportunity only happens after danger. So what I want to emphasize is that a lot of time, many researchers would confused about the concept of resilience because sometimes it would be referred as individual traits, which means you were resilient, you have resilient personality. And sometimes it might overlooked importance of feeling this traumatic experience and acknowledge, all these bad things happen. And sometimes people would just jump into the growth too fast, or jump or force yourself to looking into the positive side too fast, but didn't have enough time to process, the danger, didn't have enough time to process the traumatic event. So I want to emphasize that traumatic event, this adverse event, it's a mandatory components for growth. So hoping people would know, it's not good thing will necessarily happen. It's important to really spend time, process all these traumatic events. So we will slowly moving forward to different recovery trajectories. So PTG defined as a positive psychological change. And but so far research has rarely examined these growth outcomes following sexual violence trauma, especially in Taiwan. And many research still focus on the adverse health or behavior outcomes. So although in the United States, there are many research about post-traumatic growth, but it's not necessarily focused directly in sexual assault, violence trauma, because it's a very specific interpersonal trauma, which research also shows this kind of interpersonal trauma actually cause more harm than other trauma, such as natural disaster, cancer, or burn victims, because this interpersonal trauma actually damage the individual's trust toward the world, toward individuals, toward other people around them. It's such very detrimental compared to other type of trauma. So it's really being explored other than the Western region, especially in addition, especially for this sexual violence trauma specifically. So my research with the context, it's happening after the 2023 Me Too movement. So we were able to interview 31 adult female survivors to collect their narratives, to collect the story, which is echoing to this conversation's topic. Try to understand how they reimagine their resilience, how they reimagine their recovery, how they reimagine their trajectory after the sexual assault incidents. So we use thematic analysis, and the coder team consists of both sexual assault survivors and the non-sexual violence survivors coders. Try to understand and coding all the narratives and stories, these like life stories from the survivors. So 8 domains of the growth actually were identified among survivors in Taiwan. So it's interestingly that our 8 domains also reflecting on Dr. Judith Herman's concept of recovery, which consists of 2 parts. One part is empowerment. The other part is making connection. So there are 2 main things of trauma. The one thing of trauma is important to know is the disconnection. So sometimes you will hear survivors talking about disconnecting from the trauma memory, disconnecting from the emotion, disconnecting from self-identity. So that's one big theme that arise among trauma, disconnection. The other one is the disempowerment. So they don't feel they deserve. They don't feel they are worthy. They don't feel that they are complete. All this empowering piece. So this is interesting. There are finding reflecting these 2 big concepts, and I will go details and introduce each concept individually. So the first thing, empowerment, which consists of these like 4 domains. These are I can, I think, I dare, I decide. And while I thinking through all these empowerment domains, that reflecting to Ziwen's presentation about, all these participants wants their voice to be heard. And there's a platform to representing their voice. And they actually want to, giving back and contributing to this specific topic that echoing perfectly into this one of these growth domains. So I will talk further later. So let's start with the first one, I can. So I can is one of the themes that many survivors they were talking about. That is, I can means like they will noticing the strengths within. It's important to note that it's not like they, discover like a new, characteristic they have, or the new abilities they have. It's that actually recognize their own resilience that was there even before the sexual violence happens. So they gain insight about their life force. So to notice their strength within that was there, but they never get a chance to notice before the incident. So the second one is I think. So I think it's not only they think for their life, they show appreciation or gratitude for their life, but it's very important for the survivors to actually be grateful for themselves. Many survivors, they talk about after the incident, they're starting to appreciate themselves. They're starting to notice how far they have gone, how hard they have tried. They learn to appreciate themselves, to thank themselves for what they have done for themselves. So it's a little bit different than a Western finding about gratitude. It's more like comprehension for life and appreciation for life itself. Our finding focus on the self piece. They learn to appreciate what they have done for themselves. So that's also one of the aspect of the growth. The next one is I dare. It's echoing to what Ziwen talked about in the presentation. It's about enhanced agency and the engagement in these helping other actions. So it's very interesting to hear in this narrative for our interviewees. For our interview participants, they were talking about helping is actually healing for them. So that just not only about, trusting, the agency or seeking for support, but it's also about they can actually demonstrate and acquiring the capacity to actually engage, to helping others engage in altruistic behaviors, to giving back, to helping with the project, to writing posts on Instagram, to writing posts on Threads. So all these different methods to helping others, it's actually helping themselves to heal. So we notice this like I dare. So I dare to trust the system. I dare to use the system. I dare to work against the system. It's something we found as a very outstanding domains within post-traumatic growth. A last piece about empowerment is the I decide. This is also another aspect that is especially harder under this Asian upbringing context. In Taiwan, a lot of time, female or girls are sometimes harder to be affirmed to set up healthy boundary, no matter it's mentally, physically, or different aspect. Setting up healthy boundary with family might be harder, especially for female as the upbringing cultures in Taiwan. So many survivors that talk about, I dare to decide, I decide. So I gain the ability to set in boundaries and the autonomy, including, autonomy over their body. I can say no. I can set a mental, space as well. I will say no to all these burdens I don't think I can take anymore. And I can say no to the relationship, have more control. So a lot of control and power over boundary settings were actually immersed in the conversation within survivors' narratives. So the connection piece, there are 4 domains within this connection piece. The first domain would be I feel, this emotional literacy. Again, this is one of the aspects that doesn't show up in the Western field, but actually it's a very outstanding things identified by our survivors. With the emotional literacy, the survivors were able to voice their feeling, to connect with their feelings, and actually to have more deeper conversation about what's going on with them. So the connection with emotion and with the ability to cope with emotion is also one thing identified by our survivors. I connect with the experience, connect with the self, reconnecting with the cognition about my trauma experience, a sense of who I am, my identity is also something really outstanding in the conversations. I trust. So a lot of survivors, they were talking about to, making connection with other and receiving help. And it's really important for survivors to be able to gain the ability to trust, because there's one thing they lost, especially through this interpersonal trauma, sexual violence. It's about person to person. They hurt each other. So rebuild trust and connection is one thing also identified by many people. And last, the spiritual growth, I believe. In a Western concept, a lot of people talk about the spiritual growth is limited to religions. But in Taiwan, so it's also different than, the Western society. We believe in a lot of spirituality, not just religion, but we also believe in a lot of spiritual world, all these things like ancestor, all these things. So many survivors talk about the spirituality, about living well, and about, how they have different expansion, of the spiritual awareness following sexual assault violence. So let's see. I think I still have like 5 minutes left. So so for a little bit discussion about the recovery, this concept. A lot of our conversation about resilience or about post-traumatic growth still rely heavily on Western framework. But this study, we use qualitative interview among 31 survivors to actually can understand and construct actually what's the Eastern concept, especially the Taiwanese culture, how people construct or establish the meaning of recovery, the meaning of post-traumatic growth, instead of using the Western models and measurement tools. And also in this study, we found actually PTG presence in Taiwan. It actually exists. And it's important to note that we are not trying to dismiss the negative outcomes, but we found that actually growth outcome can coexist with the negative outcome and symptoms following traumatic the events. It's important to note that these two, you can still be suffering, but that doesn't mean you are not growing. So we found out actually growing and suffering can coexist at the same time, which means you might still feel depressed, you might still feel traumatic, you still, impacted by all these symptoms, but doesn't mean you cannot grow at the same time. Doesn't mean you cannot see what you've been changed with time. So that is really important, and it's something we want to emphasize in this study. We are not trying to dismiss the negative symptoms, but that doesn't mean we want to ignore the growth outcomes. So we found out 8 domains, comparing to the Western study, there were 5 domains in the PTG. We see the difference under the Eastern culture perspective. And also this is important to, note that the intervention strategy for growth outcome is important, and they might be one of the missing part in terms of our traumatic, our PTSD, interventions right now for sexual violence survivors. We always focus on alleviate all the psychological distress, alleviate depression, alleviate anxiety, alleviate alleviate suicidal ideation, alleviate, all these negative symptoms. But it might be also the time for us to think about intervention that will promote the growth, because growth and the suffering can coexist at the same time. And I'm hoping this research will installation some hope for not only survivor itself, but for service provider, because a lot of time we see a lot of provider, they cannot see hope during the providing services process. And so they actually feel defeated, or actually easy to feel burnout because they cannot see change among the people they serve. So lastly, I want to talk about the facilitating of post-traumatic growth. Again, I want to, echoing back on Nuan already say about what is recovery and what the survivor think recovery is, because thinking from a more critical framework, the recovery cannot only happen in individual level, it needs to happen in a collective or macro, in a societal and systematic level. Because sexual violence is such an oppressive topic that intersect with sexism, with all these rape myths, with a lot of intersection of these macro oppressions. So individual healing is not enough. We need to all echoing and emphasis on this macro systematic change. So to facilitate PTG, not only macro level, there's a few suggestions I made based on the study finding. The The first one is emotional literacy. It's important for us to, because in Taiwan, we don't have this like social emotional learning. We really have conversation within family about, what is emotion? Is it okay to present emotion and how to cope with all your emotions? We really have this kind of conversation within home, within our upbringing. So emotional literacy is one thing to be a great foundation to facilitate PTG. In a meso level, it's really important to extend support to make the survivor feel supportive through the process. Again, peer support, some educational resources for the survivors' families or their supporting community is very important as well, to be a foundation for PTG. In the exo level, I think institution, a lot of survivor story mentioned about feeling betrayal, not only from the sexual violence incident, but from the institution they actually seek for support, they actually work with, they actually collaborate with. So a lot of institutional betrayal, many survivors talking about the experience through the support seeking process. So for institution to foster institutional courage to improve the services also matters. And lastly, the macro system, like I said, with the government leadership is key to mandating this trauma-informed principle in all different aspects, not only in social service, but public education, to promote this safer environment matters in terms of what we're talking about recovery. And lastly, I want to emphasize, although we keep saying me too, or later on we say lay too, because everybody can be a potential survivors, but it's important for us, for everyone, no matter in this, for all the participants, you guys are very eager to, understand more about this topic. So it's important to moving from me too, they too, to we do. Everyone can do something because it's such a macro level oppressive topic in terms of sexual violence. So actually, we all can contribute something to this topic, no matter in which aspects. All right, I will constitute my presentation right here. And thank you so much for listening. I'll save the question for later.
Thanks, Wan Rong, such a wonderful sharing. And next, we invite Charlene from Association Concerning Sexual Violence Against Women from Hong Kong. And let's welcome Charlene. Charlene, you can share your screen.
Hello, is my voice clear?
Yes, very clear.
Okay. All right. Good morning, everyone. And I just I feel so many connections between our shared recovery journey. So I'm Charlene from the Association Concerning Sexual Violence Against Women, and I'm so happy that暖暖 Sunshine invited me to speak today about the healing journey and the advocacy for victim survivor in Hong Kong, and collaborating with Nuan. A survivor-led organization is quite meaningful to me because I'm not just an advocate or the worker in the association, but also a victim survivor myself. So it's quite meaningful for me today. And the organizing work I will share today also reflect both of my healing journey and the work of the association. About us, we were established in 1997 when we launched Hong Kong's first sexual violence crisis line. Taking another significant step forward, in 2000, we established Leng Wing Lily, Hong Kong's first rape violence center. And our organization is divided into three main areas. The first one, association mainly engaged in policy and advocacy work. We strive to create systemic change by advocating for better policy and legal reform alongside with survivors. Second is Ring Lily, For Wengwili, our Rape Crisis Center, we provide the support and focus on survivors' empowerment. Then we also establish anti-480. In Cantonese, 480 sounds like sexual violence, like say battling and sing bowling. It is also an anti-sexual violence resources center that conduct community education because we believe prevention and awareness are key to address the sexual violence and its risks. And that's our mission. I would like to share more about Wengwili's service. Wengwili operate as a one-stop center, provide 24-hour professional intervention services. When survivors reach out to us, they can access immediate and post-crisis medical support, as well as the accompaniment through the legal procedure. For survivors who are uncertain about the police reporting, we also offer legal clinic. Then we will provide both individual and group counseling service, create a safe space for healing and mutual support. And in response in the rates of image-based sexual violence, we also launch a takedown service to remove the non-consensual intimate images. You might notice that I use the term victim survivor in the sharing topic, and also sometimes I'll use this word because we believe that moving from victim to survivor is a long journey. It can go back and forth, sometimes on and off, and both identities are important. And the process of healing and empowerment is unique and deeply personal. So victim, survivor, just why not all? And however, regardless the personal healing effort, survivors often face victim blaming and rape myths. Comments like, why were you wearing that? Or why didn't you fight back? Can cause a significant second trauma. And we believe that healing goes beyond the individual therapy. Like, we also seek peace and justice through narrative and advocacy. Like through storytelling, victims can reclaim their voices and narrative. Each survivor's path to healing is quite unique, and their voice speaks only to their personal experience. And our role is try to amplify these diverse voices and help the society to develop a broader understanding of justice. So I will talk about more about the survivor organizing. We share and organize survivor through tiered approach that progress from the individual support to the group support and the advocacy one. At the individual level, a core goal is dividing peace together with survivor. We know that at this stage, survivor always face fundamental challenges. Like one survivor shared, I never thought at this age, I will need to relearn how to sleep, eat, and get up. Another shared, you can only find peace through hiking, and also saying movement allows her to reconnect with their bodies. For victim survivor, peace is about reclaiming basic daily functions after performed trauma. When this may seem very simple to us, but actually it is so challenging for them. So what we look for at this stage is only focus on their own needs. We provide and creating a stability, relaxation, and peace for them. Through crisis support and counseling, we support them navigate the process. When they feel ready, they can reconnect with peers and support. So through our survivor platform, we offer optional activities such as yoga, hiking, some art and crafts workshop. Allow each person to reconnect with the society in safe space and their own comfortable pacing. And this is our survivor platform, Flow. FLOW stands for Finding Light Out of Wounds, and this is a survivor-led platform, and the name also named by a survivor. In this platform, we have the monthly gathering, self-exploration workshop, and some co-learning workshop, like for empower survivor to support each other, express themselves, and discover their inner strength and peace. In this photo, you can see we just finished an art jam workshop last month, and this is their great work. And at the group level of organizing, we focus on fostering a cohesion among survivors. Our survivors hopes her involvement can prevent similar incidents from happening to other girls. And others express they want some collective growth, and they also want to have a group of people who care about each other's existence and support her to living. This voice demonstrates why we strive to create a nurturing environment when survivors support and uplift one another. What we look for at this stage, through exchanging our story as a group in narrative practice, we try to deconstruct the myths that we all faced as we navigate our journey. When we were alone, we perhaps couldn't find the context or the common language to identify the pattern of control and manipulation and to see about the oppression against us. But in a group, we can form such a discourse by connecting each other's experience as a broader picture, the rape myths and stereotypes that exist as a societal and cultural oppression. In the group, we can challenge this oppression together and redefine our justice. And we also have some mutual support group, except for the therapeutic group. In the mutual support group, we also can trust and grow together. So what we do is we have different theme of narrative practice group, outsider witness workshop, or co-learning initiative. We also utilize like different channel to voice out, such as the media interview, co-response with perpetrators, and also exhibition participation. This platform can allow our survivors' narrative with share with the wider world and raise awareness and promote change. In our intimate partners as so violence narrative practice group, we have so many myths and normalize the abuse in the society. Like many people will think wife must always listen to their husband and they have to obey their husband. And this discourse make the victim bring themselves so much and quite often and feel confused about their feeling. Through connecting our collective experience, we break the sense of isolation and deconstruct the myths surrounding intimate partners assault violence. And this progress helps survivors enhance their personal autonomy and name their preferred identity. And the narrative practice group also had a great impact in sexual harassment issue. Like we challenge society's tendency to dismiss this experience as minor or label survivor oversensitive. Here is the quote. I think it's quite represent the group's nature, like the sexual harassment nature. It means people said this is small things, minor things, but we have to take it serious. We highlight how harassment affects women's safety in various spaces, not just workplace, but also street harassment. By understanding as a systemic issue, we empower survivors to unite and confront the harassment collectively and realize our strength in numbers. And the last part is about efficacy. This line highlights survivors' aspiration beyond victimhood. Through their quote, we can see like the best way is try to transcend the meaning of being a survivor. They want to start their own project. They want to pursue justice. they want to eliminate the feeling of powerless. This voice revealed their deeper desire of transformation as they reclaim their power and strive for positive change and brighter future. So in this stage, what we look for is to continue to work with survivors to carry out different issue-oriented activities in different direction of advocacy, creating opportunity for survivor participate in planning and implementation with us, like some study groups or some issue study group. Yes. And then we also try to establish their sense of ownership in issues that concern them the most and promote systemic advocacy and participation. We have so many advocacy groups at this moment, led by survivors, such as Voices, SHE, and MIT, many of them still ongoing. And we also encourage survivors to develop their independent project with resources and support by the organization. Here's are the advocacy group. I will share some of them. Back into 2009, the Voices Survivor Right Concern Group told their own story in person to different stakeholders. They advocate for 5 years to secure courtroom screen and private passages for victims. And this success empowered them with a newfound confidence and strength. Then in 2021, the SHE Sexual Harassment Advocacy Group developed from the narrative group I just mentioned in previous slide, focusing on sexual harassment issue. And the name SHE actually is from Taiwan's girls band. I'm not sure. Have you ever listened to them? Like SHE? Yes. It means sexual harassment should end, and SH empowers. And advocate for the various initiative related to sexual harassment, and such as designing their workplace training material. This is the material. It's quite a booklet to mention different way for the HR to deal with the complaint. There's one quote I quite impressed. They said when they receive a complaint, it's not just a complaint, it's a help seeking. So please treat the victim or the survivor as a help seeker, as a complainer. And they also turn their own story into exhibition and create a website to share about what sex harassment is. You can scan this QR code. Then you will go to their website and some exhibition they've joined before. And also in 2023, Hong Kong experienced a Me Too movement. And that Me Too is only focusing on image-based sexual violence. During that time, many survivors faced harsh victim-blaming comments online. The challenging environment sparked our survivor to respond and support the victim who just came forward. At that time, I'm not working in Wang Lily and the association. I'm also the victim survivor in the association and Wang Lily. So I'm also one of the members in the Meet group. And a group of survivors came together to form this, and the Meet actually stands for Make Empathy and Empowerment Tangible Together. And we launched a Good Vibe in Me Too campaign specifically designed and amplify and support survivors' voice. You can also scan this QR code, then we go to the page of the Good Vibe website. And we find out that so many people, they want to support the victim online, but they don't know what language should they say, or they just cannot come up with proper sentences. So we create a lot for them to, like when they click the button, the system will generate a warm code they can use. And they also teach them the second step or first step, how to become a warm supporter. Except for this, we also create a workshop to share our own story to guide the bystander become a warmer supporter. Because I'm one of the members, so I go through all the journey. At the beginning, we mix with nervousness and anticipation. As one of our members, she said at first she felt anxious and unsure what she can do or what people she would meet. But now she's discovered that participating in Meet isn't just about what she can do for the course, but through the process, I've gained so many strength and support herself. This is the first time we met. Then we launched the Good Vibe website. Then we accept some interview from different media. Then after a few projects, Natalie also reflects that the process took me from self-doubt to regaining confidence, eventually led her to public speaking. The entire experience has been empowering, adding new meaning to her identity as a survivor. Then we also create a sharing session for the supporter. Then we join the flat selling for the fundraising event and create some charity sale products. Here is some meaning for us. Like some people may say it gives her a sense of doing meaningful work with a great satisfaction and having people who care each other's existence. Our monthly meeting updates become a drive force to keep her living. This is essential emotional support and way out for confusion, and that's me. Like Meet for me is like my backbone and enabling me to become other people's backbone. Except for the advocacy group, and we can see we want to do a lot of more. Like we want to make our experience become a book. We want to advocate in different places and do sharing. We want to expand our comfort zone. We want to have some training course to make us have more skill and knowledge to deal with trauma ourselves or others. And we want to have some exhibition. We want to do some publish scene project. So this comes for the final part. We also support survivors' initiatives. Speaking of initiative, actually, Pieces Of is one of my projects before I work in the organization here. I was one of the service users, so they support me to finish my own initiative called Pieces Of. Actually, this is a street harassment campaign launched in 2024. It became a Me Too movement online, focusing on addressing to prevent the public ejaculation in emission. I just saw some news. Actually, in Taiwan also have the same event, like people spread unknown liquid to girls' butt top. You can scan this QR code also. You will find my campaign. At that time, the organization provided me so much support, accompanied me to doing this advocate. Like they accompanied me to do the media interview, offer the campaign guidance, and support the help seeker from Pieces Of. Then I can refer to Ring Lily. And they also provide an outsider witness session for me, the survivor of Pieces Of, and some of my friends support me during that time because being an advocate is under great pressure and so many different voices, and keep me the faith and believe these things can work. And I got so many support network behind this page. And the experience gave me a deeper insight into how this organization supports survivors of sexual violence through the, at the beginning, at the individual level, they provide counseling, then become a group, we have some peer support. Then when we have some strength to fight for the society, they also provide the social advocacy platform for me to transform a service user to an activist right now and become a worker in the organization. And I quite believe I'm not just the one, so many others survivors can go through the same journey as me. So Accept Me, there's another initiative we support in 2024. This is also a survivor-led initiative addressing image-based sexual violence in the art community. Like our survivor and volunteer organize an awareness-raising walk at a book fair, bringing attention to the critical issue and demonstrate the strength of collective action. Like we put so many slogans in our bag, our clothes to show to the participation and the store owner about the issue of our body right. So in conclusion, our approach emphasizes both individual healing and collective empowerment. Through our tiered of participation, we create safe space for survivors to move from personal recovery and collective advocacy at their own pace. And we believe healing and justice are interconnected. When survivors reclaim their voice and unite for change, they are not only heal themselves, but also contribute to transform our society. So in the future, we hope we can together continue to work for the society that survivors are heard, believed, and support in their pursuit of justice and healing. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Charlene, sharing for us. I saw our 3 speeches today. Before we move to the Q&A session, can I invite you to open camera to have a nice group photo? Yeah, so maybe give me 10 seconds. Wait. If you are comfortable, I invite you to turn on the camera. So, are you ready now? Okay, let's wait for about 5 seconds. Okay, and just wait for a minute. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Yay! Maybe we can take more than one picture. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Yay! Thank you for your cooperation. So the next session is if you have any Q&A, please raise your hand or just type in the chat box, because I never see your question in the chat box. So if you have question, just feel free to raise your hand or just type it in the chat box. So does anyone have any question? If no one has question, I have to accept something. It's the question for Charlene. How do you interact with those survivor-led advocacy groups, including Voice, SHE, Meet? How you empower them, and with what support?
Okay. Actually, it's not just my work. I'm working as an advocacy officer in the association, but at the beginning, we have the service unit called Wang Lily. At that time, like the counselor is already have a lot of counseling sessions with our survivors. Then when they feel more ready, then we can join the group. Like I mentioned in the middle level, it mostly is about the mutual help group. They can join their group in their own pacing, like some casual event like art jamming, film watching, so make them feel more in the group section. Then because most of them, they face some injustice in their life, so when they feel more confident or more strength, they really want to fight back. And some of them, they really want to stop other girls happening from the same incidents. Then we can follow their own determination. So we will start a group. At this moment, we will start the monthly meeting. We will discuss with the group mates what they want, what kind of campaign they want to start. Then we will offer some direction and support. Mainly, they would do that every time when they finish their interview, or for example, if I use their media interview as an example, like if they want to voice out through the interview, we will have some pre-interview section with them to talk about what they want to present, what they write in front of the camera, in front of the journalists. They can review some question. They can review for the photo taking method. They can change their voice and grant them more option to choose what they want to present. Then after the interview, we also have some debriefing to affirm their braveness, or their voice is value for the society, and give them more confidence to do sure that doing the right things. And like we also have few different steps, from like sharing in the safe space, then go for a different level, like step by step, and each step take courage. When they finish, they will affirm their confidence and strength, and we will try to do more together. Yeah, I think can I answer your question? Or how you empower them? I think mostly it's not the worker to empower them. Like they're so capable and they have own strength. So what we can do is just find their inner strength out, then they can do whatever they want to do. Yeah. Or our survivor is so capable.
Thanks for sharing, Sensor. Okay, anyone else? Okay, if if no one else, I want to ask some question about. I'm curious about Charlene too, because I think Hong Kong is relative. I mean, in Nuan Association, the method we use is similar to yours. So I'm curious about how did you develop this mythology? Is someone help you to develop this?
Sorry, can you pardon the question?
Okay, I mean the mythology you developed to assist survivors. I'm curious about how to develop this.
But actually, we don't really deal with it. I can use my own campaign as an example. Like when we have some media interview or when we saying something publicly, so many attack and backlash, of course, we understand that. But like when we face some big obstacle, then we think it is quite common to face those work. The important thing is what we believe, then we stick together. Like we are not facing this mythology alone, but as a team, we support each other. Then just make sure the core is firm and we are doing the right thing. And I forgot, there's one more project in Rain. We start a like online support team. We recruit some volunteer when we face some comment in online, which is quite harsh or like the mythology comment, then the support team, like our volunteer, will fight back online, like they fight with each other. But the meaning is not trying to argue with those people, but just want to show support to our survivor. Like in the comment, there's more than one voice, like that side of voice, but we also have another one voice to support us. And even for Mix project, I just sharing before, there's so many people, they are not really saying something victim blaming, but they don't know how to share their support. Like they want to care about, I don't want you to be hurt, but they will choose the word. Can you be more careful next time? Like they just bring the victim. But in their deep heart, they want to share their love to that, they care about that person. So Mix project is like, if you don't know how to say, you just click in our website, click the bottom. There's a lot of work you can choose. Like you don't have to comment on other people and ask them for more careful. You just show that I understand you. I know what happened to you. You must be sad and feel more about empathy about their feeling or what happened on them. It is much enough than provide the suggestion. So yeah, we from different part, like group, make sure we are unite and know what we are doing is correct. And then we have volunteer team try to provide more voices online, and we also provide some tools for the people. If they don't know how to share their love, they can follow this guide.
Thanks. So it's time for analyst meeting. Thank you all to join us today. If you have any question, feel free to contact us or Renly or Wan Rong. So thank you all today. Goodbye.